So the way that I got involved in this project is kind of random. Heath and I first met on Twitter, so we were social media buddies before we became like in real life friends. We first met on this yearly event called NaNoWriMo. If you're a writer, you may have heard of it. It's this crazy thing that a bunch of people do all around the world every year in November. National November Writer Month is the full title, where a bunch of people try to write a bunch of words or write an entire novel in a month. And so Heath and I met as writers, and we were just kind of casual connections, at first. And one day he wanted to like have a Skype conversation to kind of connect more. And we were just chatting about our different creative projects and our goals. And we realized that both of us had some interest in film. Now, I'd done some film before and like some independent film in the sense that like I'd volunteered, on some film projects, and I'd done some like directing of, some really small YouTube skits and things like that. But I had not been a professional director yet. And Heath had not done any sort of film production, but it was something he wanted to do. And so we both kind of, filed that away like, oh, okay, so we're both interested in this. And then fast forward some time, and it turned out that, so Heath was in a position where he wanted to go ahead and produce some projects. And he asked a bunch of people, a bunch of his friends, who was able to do it. And I was one of the people that was able to say yes. At that time, I was like between jobs, and I was like in between like housing situations. Basically, I didn't need to be paying rent. And so I had the flexibility. I was able to just jump in my car, and I drove all the way from Northern Virginia to this tiny little rural town in the middle. I've really been to the deep South at all, so it was kind of a culture shock for me, to be honest. It's kind of random. I feel like not a lot of people would do that kind of a thing, but fortunately, Heath was not an axe murderer. He didn't give me axe murderer vibes, so I thought it was going to be fine, and it totally was, and it ended up being so awesome and the beginning of a really, really good friendship. So this first project, the Cultists, was the first thing that we were going to do, and it even though this is a really small, very low budget kind of a project, we were originally thinking it was going to be even smaller, like literally just get some friends together and film something on our iPhones. And so the first friend that we reached out to that was going to be like someone to play in the show was Rebecca, who plays Mom. And so she was like, yep, sure, I'll do it. But then everyone else that we asked, all these other people that were actors, we were like, hey, can you get involved in this project? And most people were too busy. They couldn't commit. And we were quickly realizing that if we wanted to do it, it was going to be a little bit more complicated than we thought. So it kept kind of experiencing a little bit of some scope creep until it became more of a more official production. And so we did a casting call. We just did it like a casting call in the general Birmingham area, and we had a whole bunch of really awesome people that ended up coming. We had it in two ways. We had some people that were auditioning virtually, and then we also had some people that came in person at a library. And so it ended up just being such an awesome opportunity. We ended up meeting so many people that way. Now, because it was a really small production, at any point there were, less than half a dozen people that were the entirety of the film production crew. All of us, of course, had so many different roles. And so like this Care Bear that you see in the background, he made that. So he was the producer. He was also the props maker. And he did so many different things. And that Care Bear, the destroyed Care Bear with a knife stabbed into it and all its innards just spilled out. It was kind of photographic. A lot of people kept taking pictures of it and posting it on social media like, what is this project we're doing? And so that Care Bear became kind of iconic. But yeah, it was interesting with the casting process because we originally had someone else that was cast as Mike. So Peter, who plays Mike, he was originally cast as Ben. So when I auditioned Peter initially, he left a really good impression on me. I could tell that he really thought carefully about his characters and about, you know, their motivations and things like that. And we had some really interesting conversations talking about the role that he was auditioning for. And I was like, you know, I knew I wanted to work with him. And I liked how he did Ben. And so initially I auditioned him for Ben, or I cast him for Ben. But then the guy that was going to do Mike, he ended up having to pull out pretty last minute. And so we were running low on time. It was going to be soon, you know, time to film, and we didn't have our main character, and we were kind of freaking out a little bit, like, okay, what are we going to do here? And so Peter, he reached out to me. He was like, hey, you know, I would also be interested in doing Mike. And I knew that he would definitely be able to do the character, but I was a little skeptical at first because he didn't really look the part, at least not at the time. When I had, during the audition, you know, he had very different, like, facial hair and things like that. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure if he's going to look young enough. But he convinced me. He was like, hey, I can shave. I can let my hair grow out and I'll look a lot younger. And I was like, all right. And so I just trusted him, and it ended up working really well. Now I can't imagine our cast being any different. And I'll tell the story with Glenn, who ended up playing Ben in a couple more episodes on my commentary on his character. But yeah, it ended up being just such a wonderful way that all of the different characters came into place, and yeah, I was super happy with it. And it was so exciting for me as a first time professional director, being able to make all those really important decisions and choosing all these characters. It was really hard to choose the cast, but just because there were so many amazing people that ended up auditioning. But I was really happy with what we ended up with.
A coin trick phase. I thought it would be just like that. But I'm afraid this is my life now, and I am out of my depth.
And she just nailed this character. I absolutely adore it.